What's up, guys, and welcome to the third installment of How to Be a Better Raider. And in this video, we're going to be going over Mandalorian Raiders, the third flashpoint for the Republic side that we have. And we have a special guest with us today, and it is Papa Wolf, one of our main tanks for our guild. So what's up, Papa Wolf?
Hey, not much, Fubsy. How's it going?
I think we're just going to call you Wolf. How about that?
That works for me. It's much shorter.
Good deal. All right, so for our viewers watching, just this video is just like the other two. Oh, man, I had the volume up. How unprofessional. Sweet. We're not going to cut that. We're going to keep recording. Anyway, so like the other two videos, we're super over-leveled for this instance as well. So we're going to be kind of rushing through it, but hopefully you'll kind of still get some tips. We'll be talking about some of those important parts. But for now, Wolf, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are?
All right. Well, I've been playing MMOs since back in Vanilla WoW. I came into it a little bit late, so I don't quite have the 6 years. I think I was at like 4.5 or so. I originally came into MMOs to just PvP. That was my big thing. But as time grew on and WoW destroyed PvP, in my opinion, I kind of grew into raiding. And ever since then, I've always enjoyed playing a significant role in the raids because I know when I tell people what to do, we tend to succeed. So I've always, I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, as you've experienced in some of the runs we've done.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I know Wolf because we went to school together back, man, 2 years ago? 2 years? Holy cow.
I think it's 3 now, isn't it?
Something, forever ago.
It's a long while ago.
I had played WoW back, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. And then I quit for a long time, went into a little service mission for 2 years, came back, and decided I wasn't going to play anymore. And then he sat next to me in class, and he was like, hey, check out this new WoW expansion. And I was back in it again. Raiding through Wrath of the Lich King.
It was as I got back into it as well.
Oh, man, that was so terrible.
It was perfect timing. Yep, I'm responsible for your current state of being. You are welcome.
I appreciate that. Awesome, awesome. Well, why don't we go into a little more detail about your MMO raiding experience, with your WoW experience. Give us some details on, some of the classes you've played and some of the roles you've had and things like that.
Oh, well, to be honest, I mean, I played every role imaginable as far as WoW goes. The only thing, actually, that I haven't done is a priest. I have every class up to max level, although with Cataclysm I slacked off. I think I only have... Pause. Sorry.
Whoa, okay, a little glitchy. Okay, anyways, you were talking about Cataclysm and priests?
Yes. I never leveled a priest. I have all the other classes up to max level, except priest. I kind of slacked off when it came to Cataclysm, so I've only got like 3 classes at 85, but I've played all the main roles, healed as a shaman and druid, tanked as paladin, warrior, and DK, and DPS as all of those, and rogue. Rogue was my very first class, so to go through everything that I've done would be a little extensive. My favorite roles have always been tanking, because I feel like you can really control the flow of a fight as the tank. So I do feel like as further it got into WoW, though, it kind of became you were just literally a meat shield standing there. So,
awesome. Good deal. Well, that brings us perfectly to what your role in our guild is. In Section 8, Wolf is currently level 43, is that right?
Yes.
43 and leveling fast.
Yep.
And you're going to be hopefully one of our main tanks for our 8 and 16-man rating. So now, talk to us about your experience you've had leveling 1 to now 43 and tanking in Star Wars.
Well, sadly, I haven't gotten to experience too much tanking as far as full groups go, because leveling really goes quickly when you're just doing it by yourself, unless you have a group that you can be like, hey, we're going to go jump into an instance and do that. But for the most part, I would only come tank, as in this case, someone was like, hey, I need to get through here. So I was like, all right, let's go and just run them through all 3 of these instances really quick. I'm not going to lie, I feel like as a tank, there's a little bit more you can do as far as kiting and stuff in this game, as opposed to some of the others. Like, I feel like there's an actual significant notice to kiting, like, the bosses around and stuff. Although, obviously being, a genre where there's ranged weaponry, some bosses aren't going to be kiteable, and then there's going to be huge bosses that, you'll have the same kind of things. But overall, I feel like tanking is going to be quite an experience, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome, that's sweet. So now a little bit about the tanking also. In World of Warcraft, we have a whole bunch of add-ons you can add on to your interface, right? And one of them is threat meters. So now how do you feel tanking in this game without having a threat meter compared to WoW? Is it harder? Is it easier? Do you prefer it? What are your thoughts?
At the moment, it's just kind of aggravating because you can't tell where you're sitting at. Like, for this example, this first boss, if you remember the first time we came in here, the boss just ignored me. Like, I wailed on the boss 100% of the fight, and I was the last one to die because he wouldn't come after me. So I think that's more of a little bit of a glitch, and I feel like until the game's been out for a few months, I don't feel like a threat is going to be 100% for certain, just because they're still going to be balancing stuff. But as for now, I am really enjoying it. I feel like my class is going to make tanking quite easy because they've got quite a few AoE abilities, and some really hard-hitting single-target abilities. So as long as things respond properly, I don't think it's going to be much of a problem, and I think I'm going to enjoy it. But it is kind of the same basis as far as any tanking experience goes. You know, you hit the creature with strong attacks, high threat abilities, and that's what you do to try and pull aggro. And for the most part, that's what works.
Sweet. Now, in the previous video I recorded, I talked a little bit about aggro and about threat, but I was never an end-game tank. So why don't you give us an idea for the newer players about aggro, about threat, and kind of about how that works when you're raiding?
All right. Well, basically, the enemy mobs that you're going against, they have what people call an aggro table threat meter. And basically, it's the threat you're presenting to the mob. Sorry, I haven't really explained it much.
I just totally dropped that one on you, so no, it's totally fine.
No, it's good. So basically, what you're wanting to do as a tank, your main goal is to keep things from hitting your squishy characters. You're going to always run into people who are going to run in and start hitting things deliberately that you're not targeting. And as you'll notice in this fight that's going on right now, actually, these dogs are completely ignoring me, and they're running around. They're what's called untauntable. Okay. Every class has different kinds of taunts. And what that does is when someone else has aggro, which is when a mob is attacking, one of those players, you're able to taunt that creature, and it transfers their aggro over to you. Now, generally, you can do that with, the bosses and everything, but sometimes you have special mechanics, like in this boss fight, where the dogs were immune to taunts. And they actually didn't have any aggro table. So, in other words, no matter how much I'd wail on them, they wouldn't stay on me. And as you notice, the boss still runs away from me a few times, and that's why I always had a taunt up to just keep bringing him back, because it felt like he would just drop aggro. But that's one of those things without a threat meter, I can't be 100% on.
Okay. Awesome. So now, would you prefer to see threat meters end up in this game, or do you like it pure like this, and would you like to have the general community just get better at it? And, I don't know, not get better at it, but get used to it.
I kind of would rather people have to get better at it as opposed to getting something easy thrown in there, because then it makes it harder. And I like having something where some people are capable of doing it and others just aren't. Obviously I like being one of the people who are capable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's kind of a greedy, selfish thing, but I'm not going to lie, the people who just rely on the threat meter usually aren't that aware anyway of what's going on. So it's kind of just encouraging them to tank, which ends up actually hurting a lot of raids, when sometimes those people are actually better just DPSing.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to drop another question on you that I didn't prepare you for. Let's say I'm a brand new player in this game, and I'm in one of my first flashpoints, level 16, 17, something like that, and I'm going to DPS or something. You as a tank, what are some things that you wish I would know coming into one of my first flashpoints?
There's, first off, the different types of mobs. There's standard mobs who don't have any little symbol next to their name. There's strong mobs, which have the little silver symbol next to their name. And then there's elite mobs, which have the little gold symbol next to their name. Know the difference between those, and know that Sorry. I'm pretty sure you...
Good. Okay, we're jumping around again. Okay, sorry about that. So, yeah. Gold and silver...
Golds are elite. Okay. And basically what it comes down to is when your tank runs in, they're going to be trying to grab all those mobs. Target in other words, a standard target first, and then after that, target a strong. Because your tank is going to be focusing grabbing those golds, and then picking up the strong and the weak ones. But basically what it comes down to is you can take a hit or two from a standard or a silver, but the golds are going to start raping you. And honestly, a standard, a lot of times tanks are going to just let the standards go. They're just going to be like, they're going to grab the strongs and the elites, and they're just going to make sure they have aggro on those. And if there's still time after that, then they'll switch to the standards. But the standards that so far I've found in instances are all just what you find out in the normal world outside of it. So those you're perfectly capable of killing. So focus those down first, and then focus on whatever your tank said or whatever you saw him hitting first. That's what I would suggest. But learning how to hit what your tank hit first is a good idea. So I kind of threw two things at you there.
Okay. So the first one was knowing the different types of mobs. And,
yes.
And the second one was attacking what your tank is attacking.
Attacking what your tank's attacking, and if you don't know which one to hit, then hit the one without any marking. Not silver or gold, but the standard.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. Any other things you'd like to see from the new players?
Those are the main things. Don't jump the gun. I mean, a lot of the tanks in this game are obviously new to tanking completely. And on top of that, it is a brand new game, and some people are learning to tank for the first time. And when you're in your earlier levels, a lot of the tanks, like I know personally for Shadow, we have almost no real strong threat ability that we can use. So if you're just jumping in there and wailing on stuff before the tanks even really hit anything, like I know Jedi Knights have this leap ability. Don't leap in there in front of your tank.
Okay.
I know personally every time I see a Jedi Knight do that, I kind of want to just stop, wait for them to die, and then pick up them up. I'm kind of one of those people that do that. Yeah.
No,
sorry.
That's fair. In one of the other videos, I talked as a healer. I said, if you're a DPS and you pull aggro when you shouldn't have, then you're just going to die. Because I'm not going to heal you.
There's a reason why there's a tank.
Absolutely. Good deal. All right. Well, my next question talks about the game in general and what changes you would like to see. Like if I was a developer of the game or something like that, what would you like to see implemented in this game or changed or different about tanking, if anything at all?
Well, that's wow, total brain fart there. Basically, what it comes down to is I don't feel like the game is finished enough to really say what I want to have changed. And also, I'm only level 43.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of it could change once I hit level 50 and get everything set up and see how the actual full, ops are supposed to be like. But right now, I feel like there's enough glitches with the game still, like just from, pure graphics issues to, threat issues to where it's something that isn't the actual player's fault. Mm-hmm. And just to balancing. I'm sure there's plenty of balancing stuff. I mean, I was reading about one of those early droid fights. I'm not going to lie, I don't know the name, but it's kind of was all over the place. So, sometimes I heard now that it's too nerfed, and before, people couldn't even get it past 75%. So, I mean, it just comes down to, I think the game needs to be a little bit more finished before I can really say what I want changed. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
but overall, I'm definitely pleased with where it's at right now. At the moment, I don't have any direct comment as what I want changed.
Perfect, no problem.
So, I do like the whole fact that the champions in the game that are, your same size and stuff feel a little bit more actually like they're your same size. They're susceptible to being pulled around and stuff sometimes. There's still a few exceptions to where they're not, they're not susceptible to stuns and stuff, and that's fine. But I do like it when I'm able to use a knockback and it actually knocks them back. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
That makes
sense. I'd like to see more of that or continued amounts of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely. All right, let's get into the deepness. Let's talk about your character a little bit more. Now, when you were first going to start playing this game, did you decide, I want to play a tank and then look at the tank classes? Or did you pick Jedi Consular and then see what your options were from there?
I said I want a tank because I want to be in control, and then I looked at the tank classes.
And why did you pick Jedi Consular Shadow?
Well, my first choice was actually Jedi Knight. And then I was reading something about Shadow. What was it?
Probably something
One
really
thing
good.
is that, well, not going to lie, the first part of it was cosmetic.
Sure.
I wanted to be a Jedi. So, that put the whole Vanguard out the picture. Was it Vanguard? Vanguard,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. The commando one? Yeah.
So, yeah, and then after that, I was looking at the fact that Shadow, they're a light armor tank, which kind of appealed to me because I don't like just being one of the heavy armor tank and spank kind of things. And then I found out that they have stealth, so I was like, well, I'm kind of curious as to all the different ways that they're going to have this kind of class be able to tank. And going through it all, they've kind of impressed me a lot. I feel like the different abilities that a shadow tank has, I think it's quite a clever twist on the whole tanking aspect. So as far as before, there wasn't too much, because I was one of those people I had to force myself not to look too much into the game.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I remember you saying you drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
Good deal. All right, I'm gonna interject a little bit here. We're just about to start this fight in Mandalorian Raiders against the 4 Sith. Yep. Now, of course, in this specific recording, we just kind of own them, right? Because we're too high level. But in general, I feel like this is one of the very first fights in any Flashpoint where a good tank is required and where a good DPS is required. And I mean a good healer and good DPS. There's like a really good team mechanic to be had right here.
Yeah. No one should really be failing.
Yeah, and they can't be, otherwise you wipe it. Whereas on every other boss fight so far, a good healer, good tank, you're okay. But on this fight, it requires a lot of teamwork. So if you don't mind, you want to talk a little bit about this fight and tanking it when you're the equivalent level? And kind of what your strategy would be, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, the first thing to take notice of is that red Sith that just jumped past and the Sith with the purple saber. You know, both of them, they drop aggro, kind of like those dogs in the earlier fight. They aren't just straight up tankable. I'm not sure what was with this purple saber guy, because I think he stayed on me like the whole fight. But he's not supposed to do that. So basically, as a tank, tell your team to make sure they focus the red and the purple first, because they're going to be jumping around regardless, and the healer is going to have to be healing them. And that'll free up your tank to be able to just tank those 2 ranged DPS and build up enough threat on them. And basically, that frees up my taunt. Every time that red Sith jumped away, if my taunt was off cooldown, I was taunting him back. Okay. So if you notice, he kept running back, like right there as I'm talking about it, he's not. It's because my single target taunt is a pretty long cooldown. I think it's like 15 seconds. And he came back, and by the time he got back, he jumped away again.
Sure.
Yeah, see, like this. That's basically what he was doing. But basically, that's kind of just how it works. And that's pretty much the whole fight.
Yeah, so the reason, I forgot to add, the reason, for those who haven't played this instance yet, that this fight can be tough, is because once any of the 4 die, the other 3 enrage, and it becomes nearly impossible to beat them. And so the overall strategy is that you have to DPS at least 2 of them, if not all 4, all down to like 15%, and then kill them all in one go. And that's why this is so tough, because that's why it requires so much teamwork, because you can't just DPS 1, then the next, then the next, then the next, because they'll just kill you too fast. And so that's kind of why I wanted to get your opinion or your feelings as a tank, and you know, and kind of what you do in this with this instance. And that's really cool. That was that was perfect right there.
Yeah, having people listening really is the most important part here. And I think honestly, this fight and that first Mandalorian fight, really the most important role I think in this instance really is your healer, because there's so many things that are damaging stuff that your tank can't really control. So everyone needs to be playing smart and being aware of what's going on, because you know, if there's a Sith wailing on you, you should probably be moving around. So, and they are susceptible to, I believe they're susceptible to stuns even. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure.
From my experience, you can stun them. I have a 5-second stun I can use, but I can't lift them with my 1-minute lift. That doesn't work.
Right, that doesn't work, but that also means your knockback. So like a Jedi Sage can use his knockback when they get up close, and you should be able to use your slow on them as well. Yeah. So just remember, I feel like Star Wars is really emphasizing on the individuals being able to actually affect what's going on around them. So remember, everyone can kite.
That's really. And what's kiting? You know what I mean? Those who don't
know. Kiting is where a target is aggroed onto you. So in other words, it's trying to hit you, and rather than sitting there letting it hit you, you're trying to run away and slow it. In other words, you're trying to take as few hits as possible while that target is still attacking you. So in other words, basically, it causes no damage to be taken because they're busy chasing you.
Okay, that makes sense. Awesome. Well, we got this fight done. Piece of cake with us. Sweet. So let's go back to your shadow. Let's talk about. So once you rolled your shadow, talk about a little bit of your talk about your spec. Talk about kind of what's going on there.
Well, with my spec, you know, I don't have my tree rate in front of me, but it's pretty standard. As for leveling, first off, leveling as tank normally is never really a good idea, just because it's generally slower. You don't do as much damage, and early on you don't really notice it. Like, you know, from levels say 11 to 22-ish. But once you start getting past, you know, 25, you really start notice you doing less damage than your DPS shadow counterparts. And it's just because you've been investing points into the tankiness spec in your tree. And it just, you know, they don't have as many abilities that do damage. While leveling, take the ones that do damage in the tree when you can. There's a couple of things that are pretty crucial to making sure you're able to tank better. I'm not going to lie, I can't recall what they're called. Yeah, so, but the one that strengthens your project is huge, just because of it making it do more damage, and once you get up to, I think it's level 35, you're able to put points into something. When you get 3 stacks of Harness Darkness or something to that effect, it lets you heal when using your, what's that spell that we have that we throw rocks, the little tiny rocks?
That one. Yep, I know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Good, okay.
That one. It lets that one heal us for like 12% of our total health.
Telekinetic
which
throw.
There you go, that one. It lets us heal ourselves for every tick for 3% of our health.
Oh, jeez.
And it's like 5 ticks or something like that. That would be 15%. So yeah, but overall, just taking the normal tanking, everything in the tree is pretty straightforward for tanks. I don't feel like there's much deviation, you know. And through leveling, there's a couple of DPS ones you can take that at level 50 you'll want to respec. Like there's a 1% increase to your endurance. You don't need that while leveling, but once you hit 50, you'll want to put your points into that.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
I think this is the part in the video where you go AFK for a little while, right? I might just skip right through this. Skip. Oh, well, okay. We'll just call that good.
I don't know. Killing the turret looks pretty
for those
tough.
who didn't say, we started DPSing the turret.
Oh, you should rewind. Or no, you can still see it. Do you see how the turret shoots me and its shots are orange, and as I deflect them, they turn green?
What's up with that? You have the most amazing lightsaber in the whole world.
I do. It's just amazing, just like me. You know how it goes.
Okay, so as far as gear goes, what are the stats you're looking for in your gear?
As with all Jedi, willpower is the main thing I do believe. Actually, you know what? I don't know for other Jedi. With Shadow, willpower as a tank, endurance is extremely crucial. You also have, you know, your standard accuracy and stuff. I'm not going to lie, I haven't been paying attention too much to stats. But besides willpower and endurance. Basically, whatever has the most endurance, that's what I take. I'm at level 43 and I got 1,100 health.
That's pretty good, man. That's mucho.
Sorry, 11,000.
Oh, right.
11,000.
1,100 is
nothing. Yeah. So, and then also just making sure you have a decent shield on. At first, I thought that it was better having one of the focus crystals for leveling, but nope, having the shield is totally better.
And do you think it's pretty viable? I know you said it's a little bit tough, but is it all right to be able to level as a tank spec for the most part? You think that's good for most people to do, or would you recommend against it?
I would if you want to tank, level as tank. That's my opinion on this subject. If you're like, if I tank, it's only going to be because I have to. It's not worth doing it because you're just going to make yourself dislike it, because leveling will be slightly slower. Like, I'm leveling pretty quickly, but I think I would be leveling much faster if I was leveling as DPS, just because it does take me longer to kill stuff. But I do tell you what, there isn't anything that I haven't been able to kill. Like, and just because I can set up and I can just tank things forever.
Okay, so for this last little bit, we're almost at the final boss here. Go through with me your like normal rotation as a tank as a shadow. So for the people who are watching who are shadow tanks, so they can maybe learn a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if you know the names of your abilities and stuff like that. That you could do that.
Yeah, actually, I do. Yeah. So for single target, you're gonna always open up with a project. When you throw a project, it gets you your first stack. Depending on if you need to AoE anyone or not, you'll use your Force Breach or whatever your 41-point talent is. I actually forgot what that one was called. It's another mind spell. It's like Mind Slow or something like that. But not our standard.
I'm going to make a timeout right here. We've run this thing like 4 or 5 times together, right? And every time, the boss always comes right here. He teleports here. So me and Papa Wolf are waiting for him. And the guy totally mind tricks us And he goes way over there. And we were at Mumble, and we were like, what the? Like, it's the first time he's got over there. Anyway, okay, so back to your rotation. So you start with project, and then
you start with project, and then follow up with a double strike. The thing with double strike is double strike has the chance to project or proc another project, and it has your project has a 100% chance to crit. Now, the happy medium that you'll have to find is if it doesn't proc it, don't use another one. Either use a different ability or just use a normal auto attack. I think it's called Flurry or something of that effect. That doesn't take any force, because if you're using too many double strikes, you will quickly run yourself out of force. I find that for every project that I throw off, I'm usually only getting 1 per 3 projects. That's about how many double strikes I'm using, because I'm using other abilities. When it's just one single target, I tend to get more double strikes in, but otherwise I prefer not to, just because it takes 25 fours and we only have 100 pool to work with. And until you reach like level 37 or so, you don't get your force regeneration talent in the Chank tree. So after that, once you at higher levels, once you unlock the healing bonus from your telekinetic, you'll start working that into your rotation once you get to 3 stacks of your project, which you get a stack every time you use project. So it's not like an on-chance thing. So, and then when you do that, you'll want to make sure and throw that off, just so you know when you do use that, your telekinetic throw is not, it can't be interrupted. You can still be knocked back, and that'll interrupt it, but that's the only way. And you also don't suffer from pushback. So if you're worried about that, don't be. But I did not use telekinetic throw at all until I got that ability. So if you feel like you're not using it, it's because you shouldn't be. That's pretty much it, to be honest. We've got, like I said, our 2 AoE abilities. And then we do have a whirling strike or something to that effect. That also has a chance to proc our project. We don't normally use it, just because it also takes up a lot of force, and it's better to just build up force, so that way you can drop both of your bigger AoEs once they come up off cooldown. For those who are really dedicated to getting that extra bit of damage out there, you could swap techniques between force technique and combat technique, because combat technique has a stronger single target DPS, but just keep in mind you will lose a lot of threat from that. But I would say that's pretty much the strong basis of your rotation. It only deviates when you have specific circumstances, but that's the basis for us. Obviously, once you get under 30% for the enemy target, you'll start using your spinning strike, which is kind of like execute for those who played WoW.
Awesome. Well, we just reached the end of this video. We just killed this final boss. I got it paused now, because if it finishes before we're done, it's going to mess everything up. But do you have any last minute tips? Anything else you think anybody should know before we wrap it up?
What I would say pretty much is you are squishier than other tanks. With our kinetic wards, which, by the way, you will want to keep up. I actually missed that part. 3rd tier level, you unlock an ability called Kinetic Ward. It ups your chance for your shield to go off and how much it absorbs, which obviously, as you can imagine, would be huge. It basically means you are a better tank at absorbing multiple little hits as opposed to single large hits. So if you're expecting to get hit, like, you'll find this issue when you're facing enemies that hit you really hard once with a single hit.
I don't know who was calling me.
Sorry, that was strange. You'll find when you get hit by someone who hits really hard single targets, you'll find those are going to be your toughest fights. So just be ready to kite around a bit more when you're facing targets that hit harder with single hits. Those are mainly going to be your melee champs and your larger droids.
Sweet. Awesome,
so I think
man.
that's
I really
it.
appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Or the show, or the whatever this is.
It's a show. I expect to get paid.
Yeah, right. That sounds good.
Yeah,
and hope.
Yep, sounds good. I know it was fun, so I hope we can do more, and I hope it helped anyone who is listening.
Now I know I don't want to play tank. I'm just kidding.
It's all right. We don't want you playing.
Hey, I really appreciate it, man. And we will talk to you later.
Yep.
Peace.
All right. Good night.